Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am 12 Kyle. Check this out. On this episode, got a special guest in the building. I've often said it's always cool, but it is extremely hard and difficult when you make an attempt to interview your friends, because your friends know you better than anybody else. And, sometimes it's hard to interview friends without laughing. So I'm going to try to get through this interview without laughing. This episode, I'm bringing on a good friend of mine, man. Been rocking with this guy, 20 plus years.
Yeah.
He is currently the head strength coach for the Atlanta Falcons football team. Ladies and gentlemen, welcoming to the 12 Kyle podcast for the first time, Dr. Thomas Stallworth. Stall, what up, man?
What up, Kyle? Appreciate you having me, baby.
Oh, man, anytime, man. Glad to get you on. Man. Wow. I what's weird is I just said something that I don't think I've ever said. I called you Doctor and I called you Thomas. I don't think I've ever called you Thomas.
Neither one of them. I don't even answer to neither one of them.
Right. And it's funny because sometimes Sharice will say, she was like, well, did Thomas do such? And I'm like, who is Thomas? Who is that? I don't know damn Thomas. But anyway,
I got a new friend or something.
Right. Got you on the podcast, man. We're going to talk a little bit about your journey to the NFL. It's been an eventful journey to say the least. So I guess before we start talking about the NFL, let's talk about where it started. Before I even start where it started, I guess I should probably go back to give people a little brief synopsis of who you are and where you came from. Dr. Thomas Stallworth is, as I mentioned, the head strength coach for the Atlanta Falcons. But before that, he was a football player at the University of Tennessee, where he was a linebacker from 1997 to 2001. In that time frame, the Tennessee Volunteers won 5 bowl games. Didn't know that. They won 2 SEC.
No, we didn't win 5. We lost to Kansas State in the Cotton Bowl. We lost to Nebraska in the Orange Bowl.
Okay.
So
Wikipedia's got this all wrong.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
but you did win the 1998 national championship.
Absolutely. We definitely did that.
With T. Martin at the helm. And from there, you went on to coach in college football at my alma mater, South Carolina State University, from 2004 to 2008. You then left there to go to Grambling from 2008 to I'm sorry,
Grambling State.
I'm sorry, Grambling State University. And for my boy Eclectic, who was a Grambling alum, he said that's the place where everybody's somebody. I guess that's what they say down there.
Yeah, it is. That's exactly what they say.
And from there, you went on to become the associate head strength coach, strength and conditioning coach for 3 seasons at Mississippi State. From there, you did a season at North Carolina State, Texas Tech, and then a season at Fresno State. And then after that, Dr. Thomas Stallworth moved on to become the head strength and conditioning coach at Western Kentucky University. Subsequently, after that, he made it to the NFL. Spent 3 seasons with my favorite team, the NFL Football Giants. And then after 3 seasons, became the head strength and conditioning coach for the Atlanta Falcons. So, Stall, you've been around. I mean, you've had a few stops.
Yeah,
just a few. So I guess let's go back where it started. Where were you born and raised?
Born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee. Both of my parents are HBCU alums. My dad went to Tennessee State. My mom went to Fisk University.
Okay. That's what's up. But and you went to high school here in Metro Atlanta, correct?
Well, you got to put some. Because we are both from this area, we can't false claim Atlanta.
Okay,
I went to Lithonia High School.
there you go, Lithonia High School. Okay, now the question, and here's the thing that I always try to do, particularly when I'm interviewing people, and it's even more difficult when you're interviewing friends. I try to ask questions that I don't know the answer to. So I definitely don't know the answer to this question, and I've never asked you this before. So, of all the schools, Stahl, how does a kid from Lithonia, Georgia, end up in Knoxville at the University of Tennessee playing football for the legendary Philip Fulmer?
Well, again, I was born in Nashville, and so growing up, you know, it was even though I was living in Georgia, raised in Georgia, I was always a Tennessee fan.
Okay.
You talking the late '80s, early '90s with just the cobweb,
Let's just say
Reggie
early '90s
Cobb.
because you wasn't in the '80s, Stahl. You too young.
Oh gosh, you go. I mean,
And
everybody
I'm
say,
gonna mess with him a little bit, guys, because I'm older than him. So go ahead.
yeah, just make sure you let everybody know a lot older. No, and so just thinking back to those days they used to call it cobweb, Reggie Cobb and Chuck Webb and the run James Little Man Stewart. It was a great time in Tennessee football in those early '90s that basically transitioned to the time when I was there. So
Mhm.
it was just my love for the university.
Okay. So your love for the University of Tennessee got you to tell. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. Um, so you leave Tennessee. What led you into coaching? Because like I've often said, like, and I've told you this before on several occasions. Like I had never had the patience to coach. The furthest I got was coaching my son's football team when he was, you know, 8 years old. But what led you into coaching?
So it's funny because like most college students, I, and as you talk to people, I would say about 80% of society's stories are the same.
Mhm.
Nobody finishes college with the major that they originally went in with.
Nope.
And so the other reason I wanted to go to UT at that time it was a top 25 engineering school. And so I originally went in as a civil engineering major. But what you learn about engineering classes, engineering schedules, and football, those schedules don't mix. You know,
To say the least.
yeah. I mean, because most of your engineering classes are in the afternoon at the same time as
Hmm.
football practice. And so you can't keep, putting classes off until the next semester or the next semester or when you're not in season. So real quick, you just had to make that adjustment. And so when I changed my major to sport management with a business minor, at that point, my sister's a judge now, but at that time she was in Notre Dame Law School.
Hmm.
And so, being around her and my aspirations of actually wanting to start to be a sports agent.
Okay.
So, working that channel, but the engineering those couple of semesters engineering set my GPA back some. I won't
Just
say
a
it was
little.
yeah, it kind of backtracked me. So I wasn't able to make the transition like I wanted to. But I had to go to grad school, and even while I was in grad school, I continued to try to study the LSAT and try to get into law school because Tennessee does have a top. At that time, it was a top 25, top 30 law school.
Okay.
So my plan was, the classic. Okay, I'm here. I'm gonna go to undergrad, grad school, law school because I really loved the university. It had, some great relationships with people across campus. But once I did not get into law school, became okay. What's your next step? Because
Hmm.
ultimately I just wanted to be around the game. You know how it
Okay.
is. Like when you're an athlete, you very rarely get away. Like you, even though you're not playing, you very rarely get away from the game. And so I always had the love for the game and wanted to be around it. So while I'm in grad school, I'm a GA in the weight room, and before when it's time to graduate, like I said, I hadn't gotten into law school. It's time to go. Grad
Hmm.
school just ain't gonna just let you keep taking classes.
Nope.
So yeah, so that was how I got into coaching.
It's interesting because you're right. It's very hard, especially I want people listening to understand like when you've done something, particularly like football, and you played for as long as you played from little league through high school through college, it's hard to just walk away, especially if you know that the NFL isn't probably coming calling.
Yeah.
And you want to still be around the game in a form or fashion. Um, so your coaching career takes off. um, you and I met, and it's funny. I was trying to think like we met. I don't even know what year we met. It was the year that South Carolina State beat Grambling. I do remember that.
Well, no, it wouldn't have been that year because that would have because that year was the year I was actually at Grambling.
Okay.
So
I
so
don't
we
think did I meet you before then?
because you know Hemby was the one who really introduced me to
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
So he introduced me to all y'all at one of the homecomings. And, I tell people all the time that was like South Carolina State was a great experience and a great time for me because going from a predominant, a PWI
Hmm.
and a very athletic driven university to HBCU where culture is unlike anything you've experienced. You get there and you see this and like you just start meeting former players and it's like they just welcome you. They embrace you because
Hmm.
ultimately every former player wants the best for their program.
Facts.
So at that time, I was actually coaching two of Hemby's brothers. And so, that's how he and I got close because he was actually still coaching football too. So we would sit down and talk
Hmm.
shop. But then, yeah, that homecoming, I'm out on the yard, all wrong after the game. Because now I'm looking back at it like I'm out there in my work clothes, got my coaching gear on,
Right,
I'm
right.
just all wrong. But, he's introducing me to all you all. And so at that point,
Wow, that's crazy.
the cipher started on email.
I couldn't even remember. Yeah, right. That's crazy, right? And I couldn't even remember like when we started kicking it. And so like you look back on that time, so your coaching career takes off. I mentioned the schools where you were. Um, I remember obviously, you being at Grambling and then Mississippi State. And as your career takes off, you do something that's a little bit different from most people in that you not only went and got your master's, but you went and got a doctorate, even as as you progress, which is something that you don't see a lot in the coaching industry. You It says here that you earned your doctorate of psychology and sports performance psychology from the University of Arizona Global Campus. And your master's was in sports administration from the University of Tennessee, and then you got your bachelor's, obviously, in sports management from the University of Tennessee as well. So I kind of chuckle when I say that because, like, what made you make that transition to say, you know what, I'm going to get my doctorate? Because again, you don't see a lot of coaches with a doctorate.
Well, it's funny because it's a very layered question, and I say that because my my dad always, my father who's a military man always, just pressed me on education to stress the importance of education, and so he just always just kind of kept. You should think about getting your doctorate. You should think about getting your doctorate. And I would always kind of like just like that laugh it off like man I'm done with school like I'm
Right.
good on that I'm not doctorate, that's research and whole lot more reading. I'm good on that. But then when I was at Mississippi State, the head strength condition position came available, and I interviewed, and I didn't get it. So at that point, it was a eye-opening experience about the nature of the business and
Mm.
coaching, but then also just a life lesson about loyalty. And so what I told myself at that point was, well, I'm going to prepare myself now so that I can distinguish myself. I don't want to just be the regular average strength coach that's the meathead that just likes lifting weights. I want no, and I wanted to be respected for my mind and my mental capabilities. But then also, this is the time that that mental health and sports psychology was really gaining traction in what the field is. And so I wanted to do that because I will say this, I learned this from a mentor. Coaches don't retire. They don't get the benefit of the doubt like football coaches do. When this profession tells you to hang your whistle up, you're done. And so for me, it was also just having a backup plan that when that time comes, I can make a transition into player personnel, player development. Even if I want to go into a high school setting and just start teaching, I've got a backup plan because this business is very fleeting, and it's now because of its popularity, it's almost overpopulated.
Right. And it's a business.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, it's a business. So you do that. And I remember you being at Western Kentucky University, as I mentioned a little earlier. So you're at Western Kentucky. And folks, I kid you not. This guy tells the crew, hey, man, I'm going to the NFL Combine this weekend. All right, okay, Stall, cool. Whatever. He literally comes back in like 3 days. And then he sends us a message on our group chat, and he says, yeah, I'm about to go to the NFL. I accepted a job with the Giants. I'm like, huh? What? How did you were going to the Combine and you come away with a job? What happened when you, or did you know when you were going to the Combine that you were going to interview for a position?
So that week was actually rather funny because, everybody, if you play college football, everybody knows what mat drills and morning workouts are like.
Mm-hmm.
Well, where Western Kentucky is in Bowling Green, it was hour and a half, maybe 2 hours south of Indianapolis, straight up 65.
Mm-hmm.
So I get a call from the head strength coach with the Giants, Aaron Wellman at the time, and asked me if I'm in. They've got an open position. They asked me if I'm interested in interviewing. Who would not want to work for the Giants?
Right.
Absolutely, coach. Okay, well, can you meet us in Indy? Wait a minute. Like y'all know I'm in the middle of off season. So, long story short, we get finished, like we're on the field 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
6:45, we're finishing. 6:50, I'm in the car going up 65.
Wow.
So I go up, drive up to Indy, interview. I'm interview with the head guy, the head strength coach, a couple of athletic trainers, and then he's like, "Well, we appreciate your time. We'll be in touch." So as I'm driving back, they're like, "Well, we'd like a second interview with you.
Wow.
When would you be able to come to the facility?" So now I'm like, "Hold on. This is the college in me. Like, I don't like. When am I supposed to? One, I can't afford to fly to New Jersey."
Right.
They were like, "Well, no, we'll send you a flight itinerary. What's the closest airport?" I was like, "Nashville." They send me an itinerary. So now on Thursday, they fly me up to the facility for an in-person interview with the entire athletic training staff, the rest of the strength staff. Get a chance to meet with the GM and the assistant GM. Before I leave the building, they got the contract offer for me.
Wow.
So yeah, so on that Thursday, that was another morning workout, another mat drill. 6:50, I'm on the road driving to Nashville for the flight to New Jersey. By the time I come, by the time I leave, I'm coming back. I got my contract offer and I'm officially a Giant.
That was crazy. I remember you told us that. I was just like, man, but it taught me a lesson though, and the lesson was always be prepared.
That too, yeah.
Always be prepared. Opportunity gonna knock. You don't know when it's coming, but you got to be ready. So that's the thing that always stood out to me about that process for you. So you get to the NFL, and I guess one of the things that and I'll give you a little backdrop on this, what I'm about to talk about. I remember when I first moved to Atlanta, one of my best friends, he worked at the Georgia Dome when the Falcons were then playing at the Georgia Dome, and he had press passes and sideline passes. I don't know how he would get them, but he'd get them and give them to us. So, being a lifelong NFL fan, I've been to NFL games, been to the Super Bowl, the whole nine. And I remember that first year that I was in Atlanta, which was the year that the Falcons actually went to the Super Bowl. Shout out to Eugene Robinson. so, so, but I remember that they had a playoff game that year against the 49ers. And he gave me a press pass. So I took the press pass. I was in the press box at first, eating and stuff. And then I came on the field. And even someone like myself who had played college football, at South Carolina State University, nothing. I was never intimidated by anybody's size or anything, even as being as small as I am. But the thing that stood out to me was as I stood on that sideline, I had no idea that the game was as fast as it was. I mean, and I'm talking about this is the 49ers with Steve Young at quarterback, T.O. at wide receiver. And I could not believe how fast they were moving. And I was like, there's no way. I mean, every athlete in their mind, every football player in their mind thinks, hey, I could play in the NFL. No, you can't. You just can't, And it was at that moment I was like, you know what? I think I made the right career choice. But that was like a kind of an awakening for me where the speed of the game really surprised me because it's nothing like what you see on TV. So I said all that. So I said all of that to say this. What was the thing that probably surprised you the most, once you got to the NFL, either during the game or, just during the week?
That, I would say 95% of these players are regular people.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, you can talk to them about anything. It's not like they have these bravado egos or I'm this, I'm NFL. No, these are regular dudes that you can laugh, crack jokes with, talk about. They talk about you like there's a true dialogue and relationship that can be built. So, just the genuineness to some of these players that, if you just asking for it, depending on what you ask for, oh yeah, no problem, I'll do that for you.
Mm-hmm.
But they also are obsessed with their craft. So as a coach, they want to know that you know what you're talking about.
Right.
Once they know that, you have a different level of respect with them. But if not, they'll see through you and you can lose them real quick.
That's a great point. That is a great point. And I think people don't understand the business and the relational side of the NFL. And that's very key, particularly, considering the amount of time that you spend with them. I remember, I think it was your first year with the Giants. There was a Monday night game where you guys played against the 49ers. And so you're in San Francisco. You're in San Francisco. And I remember we're in the group chat after the game. And he was like, all right, man, I'm about to, get on this plane. I'll holler at y'all later. And I think I asked you, I said, so were you going home when you get home? Or you was like, no, you was like, I'm going straight to the facility. And I kind of did the math in my head. Like, I mean, it was, around midnight here on the East Coast. And I'm like, okay, so you're going to catch a 4-hour flight and you're going straight into the
4 hours from New Jersey will barely get you to Dallas.
Wow.
That flight was every bit of 6.5 hours.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that long. Okay.
So I tell people all the time, until you live up in the Northeast, you take for granted that New Jersey and all those states are really further out east than the East Coast.
Gotcha.
So you're really flying from the furthest point east in the the continent of the United States to the West Coast.
Mm-hmm. And just that exchange that we had that day that told me about your preparation. What is game day like? And you don't have to get into specifics as far as what with New York and Atlanta. But what is game day like for you? What is your typical, if there's such a thing? What is your typical game day?
Well, I mean, to that point, you can't say what's typical because you might have a 1 o'clock game, you might have a 4 o'clock game. Now with these flex games, you might have a night game. Like a Thursday night game is completely different, depending on what time zone you're in. Because obviously with us being in Atlanta and New Orleans being in our division, that's the central time zone. So like a 1 o'clock game on the East Coast is 12 o'clock there.
Right.
So typically we get to the stadium 4 hours before game time.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff that, goes on behind the scenes that, from a player preparation, from a coaching preparation, there's a lot of stuff that goes on once you get to the stadium. And so, it's about 2 hours of lull time from about 9 to 11,
Mhm.
before the first group, before the groups actually start rolling out on the field for the
Right.
warm-ups that the fans see.
Hmm. No doubt, no doubt. And that's always fun for the fans because that's is especially now they have this thing where they'll bring the fans on the field. The first maybe 2 hours or so before kickoff, so they get a chance
Yep.
to interact. Maybe rub some shoulders with some big wigs or what have you. So now let's get to the fun part of this, though. A couple of rapid, just off the wall questions. What's the loudest college stadium you've been in?
That is a great question. And I tell people this wholeheartedly. As much as they were a rival
Mm-hmm.
between the University of Florida and an LSU night game,
Oh wow!
you do not want to roll up in LSU at night when them folks been drinking all
All day
day.
long.
And they find ways to get drinks in the stadium. That thing gets to rocking, and that is college football at its finest, baby.
Mm. What
But the
about the?
Florida, but the Florida game, because at that time when we were there, when I was in
Mhm.
school, and it was a true rivalry, the way that stadium is built, it really holds in noise, so that thing could get rocking too.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I I thought you might say Neyland Stadium where your Volunteers play, but nah, both stadiums. That's what I've always heard. Like they say LSU, if you're outside of the stadium, like you can really, if it's rocking, you can feel the ground outside the stadium moving.
Yes, sir.
Um, what about the loudest NFL? And I know you probably haven't been at all of the NFL stadiums, but you're probably coming up on them. Loudest NFL stadium so far for you?
Well, when I was living out in Fresno, I had a former player, Gabe Jackson,
Mhm.
who was playing for the Raiders when they were still in Oakland.
Okay. Ooh.
And the Oakland Coliseum is the closest thing to a college atmosphere that you will ever have. I
Wow.
mean, when they talk about the black hole and just that Raider mystique, Raider Nation is
Hmm.
here. You feel bad for the city of Oakland because they don't have that football franchise,
Right.
but those were some of the most passionate fans in the NFL by far.
Mm. That's great. That's great. Um, okay, I'm gonna give you a scenario. You've got you've got to go 80 yards. You're down by 5 points. You're on offense now. You're down by 5. You got to go 80 yards. You got one timeout. What quarterback, past or present, do you want to engineer your drive?
Now, see, that's a tough question.
I know that's what
Be-
I do.
Well, no, I mean because I played quarterback in high school,
Now that I did not know.
so I was
You,
a wishbone. I was a wishbone quarterback in high school.
you just
Especially,
open yourself up to some jokes later
oh,
on, right?
absolutely. But that's why my son plays now. He got the body for it. Like I
Right,
grew out of it real quick. And this in this day and age, where you can actually throw the ball instead of
right.
being a military academy, just being a glorified running back. Um, yeah. So Randall Cunningham was always my favorite quarterback growing up. Then when I got to college, because our school colors were black and gold,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I started to fall in love with Cordell Stewart as a player
Okay.
because they ran the option just like we did, and so I wore number 10 because of him in high
Okay.
school. Um, boy,
But you still ain't
and,
answered the question yet.
but no, because I'm going there. I was going to say now if it's college,
No, let's just go pro. Let's go pro because that probably makes it easy.
if it's pro, I'm actually going to go with Randall. People underestimate his arm and his overall athletic ability. Like if he were to break loose, he's got what we call that good gas. He could ride.
Yes.
He could ride out on a lot of people, and that 80. He could eat up that 80 yards real quick because of that stride.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I didn't expect that answer. For me, I'd probably say Marino. You can't go wrong, Marino. Brady's probably a close second. Another question: best receiver in your opinion, T.O. or Randy Moss?
Ooh. Well, you first of all, you're not giving the respect due to the last name because.
Well, I didn't say the greatest of all time. I said of the two, which one is the best receiver? I ain't talking about Stallworth.
That's what I'm saying. See, so when you talk about receivers, first of all, when you're talking to me about receivers, it's going to start with John Stallworth. The man is in the Hall of Fame for a reason, out of Alabama A&M. So he did that from a black college. That's another story. But let's get back to your question. If you say Randy Moss or T.O., I'm definitely going to go with Randy Moss.
Same here. I got to go with Moss, and I love T.O. I love his game, but if I got to pick one, I'm taking Randy Moss. Past or present, who is the best running back you've either played against or coached against? College or pro?
Golly.
College or pro? Because you saw some dogs in the SEC, I know.
Well, I mean, quiet as kept. In my signing class in 1997, little would we know, in that signing class, we had two future 2,000-yard rushers in the NFL. Jamal Lewis and Travis Henry. They were the same signing class.
Wow.
We also had another little running back, Travis Stevens, who was 5'9", $195, but tough as leather. We joke about this to this day. Unfortunately, our senior year was the year of 9/11. That was the weekend that we were supposed to play Florida.
Oh, wow.
That game got pushed to the end of the season. And so, like always, the winner of that game is going to get to the SEC East. We go to the Swamp. Like I said, 5'9", 195. Travis Stevens gives Florida 250 on the ground.
Damn.
250 in the Swamp. We retired Steve Spurrier.
Wow.
So, I'm always going to be partial to the guys I play with,
True.
of the relationships and the blood, the sweat, like the genuine relationship with those guys, because we came into college together. And I know it, I know what they did. I knew how they worked. Like I saw it from when it started. Just like those three guys, like I said, two of them cats end up running for 2,000 in the NFL.
And that's hard to do.
Everybody don't do that.
Only a handful have done it.
And so we had two in the same signing class that did it.
Yeah, that's
as funny as Travis Henry was. When he got to the league, he had, like every, running back, offensive guy, he had his slogan: if you want to win, get a ball to T. Hen. And you could give that man a ball 40, 50 times a game, and he just just gonna weigh you out.
He was a workhorse for real. All right, let's get a little personal real quick. Gotta pick one. Peyton Manning or Eli Manning? But you played with Eli.
Coached Eli.
I'm sorry, you coached Eli with the Giants, and you played with Peyton at Tennessee. You taking Peyton over Eli?
Because what I know about the stories of Peyton in Knoxville from the time he stepped on campus, like the nickname, the Sheriff, and like his football IQ, until you're in a room on a team with that man, people have no idea.
Do you think he has any regrets about not winning a national title at Tennessee? Because you guys did win the title, but you won it under T. Martin, who was a dope college quarterback. he doesn't get the props he deserves. But do you think that may have ever bothered him? Just your
Oh,
personal opinion.
absolutely. I mean, because and this is another sore subject that people hate to hear when I say this.
Mm-hmm.
That his senior year, Charles Woodson deserved the Heisman because
Mm.
one, he was the best player. You look at what he did on offense, defense, and as a returner. But then, more importantly, he did beat his rival. Unfortunately, Peyton never beat Florida, and so if Peyton had ever beat Florida, that would check a box for him. But two, if he would have had that moment like Charles Woodson had against Michigan, they always talk about that Heisman moment.
Mm-hmm.
He had a Heisman career, but we know the Heisman is about a year.
Yeah,
He never had that moment.
never had that moment. And Charles, you can make a case that Charles Woodson's best moment came in the biggest game, and it was a rivalry game for him against Ohio State. So,
Absolutely.
uh, last question before we get out of here, man. Pre-game music, jazz or Lil Jon?
I would never do jazz during pregame. And it's not even Lil Jon. It was really going to be some DMX. Where my dogs at? It's going to be some good old DMX.
Well, me and the rest of the crew know it's Lil Jon, so you could use that answer.
You're not going to try to just.
It's an inside joke, folks. It's an inside joke.
You're not going to make that my. There was no Lil Jon in the 90s, like the late 90s when I was in college. That wasn't until the early 2000s. But even still, that was when DMX, and he'd have you on edge, like listen
Oh
to
yeah,
that.
oh yeah, man. One last thing before we get out of here, man. I know we've talked about it before, but have you ever? And I'm gonna ask you this question because I know that me and the fellas have talked about it. Have you ever envisioned that day, that Sunday evening, where you're on that field, wherever it is, and that confetti's coming down on your head? Have you envisioned what that moment's going to feel like? Because we know that it's going to happen for you. I mean, because it's supposed to. It will. I'm going to speak it into existence.
Yes,
That day where that Super Bowl Sunday where the Lombardi Trophy is in your hands and the confetti's coming down on your head.
Now being here as a head guy, have a chance for that to happen for the hometown team
Mm-hmm.
and for it to be the first one in franchise history. I know, like we always joke about it. I would be snot crying on the field that day. Because you know how it's a lot of
Right.
Atlanta fans are they're very supportive. They're very finicky, but they are supportive.
Very much so.
And so when you're winning, all on board. And so I had a chance to grow up here when the Braves made their run in the 90s. And I had a chance to see those parades. Even though the Hawks never made it to a championship
Hey, watch it
series.
now. Watch it.
Lavishes, yeah, as a matter of fact, we got to check score of the game.
Oh,
But
it's over. It's over.
yeah, watch out for the steps.
Yeah.
It was like you could see even when the Hawks were doing good. But even when, like you said, the Falcons had their run, not just with Mike Vick, but when Jamal Anderson and they made that Super Bowl
Mm-hmm.
run, like Atlanta's a different city when the teams are successful.
Very much so.
I mean, and it's already a melting pot of people, but that's going to make a lot more people flip and get on the bandwagon with the Atlanta Falcons. Like, because obviously the Braves are still doing their thing. The
Right.
Hawks are, they're up and coming. Even Atlanta United, you hear about the stories down at that stadium when they won, and even now, like it's unreal. So everybody wants to be associated with a winner. But for the Falcons to be able to get one because football in the South and what it means,
Facts.
I mean, like it, you can't even describe it. I wouldn't even want to think about it.
You know what, man? I think just because how we feel about you, we'd be snot crying too. Even if it wasn't, even if it was, even if they were fans of somebody else, because like you said, you hit the nail on the head. Like, no, this city will really get behind you. I mentioned that 97 year that they went to the Super Bowl. That was my first year in Atlanta. And when I tell you, that team went 14-2, and the time between, I want to say the time between the playoffs starting and all the way through the Super Bowl, I mean, it was bananas. Like, you would have, and then of course the Vic era was crazy, and then it ended crazy, and then Matt Ryan, and then the 2016 season was crazy, but that we all know how that ended. But they want to see that, they want to see a winner, and as the famous Mel from Southwest Atlanta always says, we need some winners in the city. And yeah, we definitely, as a crew, man, we want to see that happen for you. So bruh, appreciate you for coming on the podcast. As I mentioned, I forgot to mention, and I don't know how I missed it in the bio, but when Dr. Thomas Stallworth was at University of Tennessee, he did pledge Omega Sci-Fi Incorporated.
Hey Q.
See, hey, I shouldn't have said nothing.
My bad. Okay.
Anyway, I would. This is the time of the podcast where I normally give out people's social media handles, but he's not on social media, and he's probably very smart for that, because you shouldn't be on social media. So
I don't want that headache. I don't want to go down the
man, trust me, you ain't missing nothing. You get everything we need you to get in our group chat. So, and you don't have to be on social media to get that. But my brother, man, much love. Appreciate you for coming through the podcast. We got to do this again, man. We got to do this again. And yeah, we're looking forward to a great season this upcoming season for you and the Atlanta Falcons.
Absolutely, man. I enjoy this, man. You keep doing your thing. It's only gonna get bigger and better because they got the right man behind the mic on the ones and twos.
Appreciate it. 1-2 on the ones and twos, man. You already know what it is.
There you go. That's human baby at work.
That's going to do it for us. So for my man, Dr. Thomas Stallworth, I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this. For my man, Dr. Thomas Stallworth, I am your boy 12 Kai. We'll catch you guys next time. 5Gs, like the cell phone.